How about now? Hello, hello. All right. Yay. All right. Sorry about that. Let's do it again. Yes, sorry. So I'm at home. I'm in San Francisco. Used to be in London for a while and moved to US, San Francisco, about a year ago. By the way, hello guys. I guess I was muted before. Okay, where to start from? So my name is Ricardo. I'm running this project called 3.js. I started it around 8 years ago. It's for people that want to do basically for people that want to do websites with 3D graphics, or like advanced websites with interaction, or like at the time, like think about like the Flash websites from like 10 years ago, but now that there is no Flash, it's a bit of a replacement for that kind of people, that kind of like needs at the time. It tends to be for like advertising of games, but it's starting to become also for like visualizations. So I started like 8 years ago. It's basically defining a language, so you can kind of see if we go to the source. This is an example where this is a language basically that defines 3D scene with a camera. You define the geometries you're going to use, the materials that you're going to use, and then you think about it as a 3D software, but like programming that scene that you're going to like manipulate, and then they're going to display. And then like this will be like a very basic example, like creating kind of like a camera, the scene that you're going to put it, the geometries and the materials, and also how you're going to like the technique or the technology they're going to use for rendering it. And then every frame, this will be like the frame that it's telling like to rotate the object a little bit. So the result is basically this, if it loads. Yeah, eventually like with that piece of code you end up like just having one cube spinning there, and you can easily manipulate it, from the code directly, or make it spin faster, that goes with the music. But yeah, so that was a while ago, and since then, like, I wasn't really planning. I didn't thought too much of the complexity of the project, how difficult it was gonna, or how long it was gonna take. I just thought it was a thing that I wanted to do for myself because I wanted to have the tool ready, or like I wanted to have something I could manipulate or like go expand. So I just put it on GitHub since the first day, and you can kind of see a little bit history here and contributions. Yeah, so it was in 2010, and you can kind of see, like, this is the amount of like code that we haven't written, and you can see all the amount of people on how much each people have done in every different time. But yeah, you can see a little bit how in overall, like the development is kind of like going up and getting more complex over time. Like, it's not like a thing that you just do it and then it's a problem that is solved once, but it's a problem that keeps that has like many issues, and you can keep working on it for a while. And to be honest, I don't know exactly when I'm gonna be done with it. If I knew at the time that it would take 8 years, probably I don't know, I will think twice about it. Yeah, I don't know, that's I'm not good at doing descriptions of these things, but whenever you're too deep into it, hopefully that makes a bit of sense. But yeah. Yeah, 8 years is that is something that I learned recently. Whenever if you ever do like you know, it's something in those things that you can do like a personality test, and it kind of shows the description of your personality. It basically shows that I can do something for a really long time. So that kind of explains. It's basically like become like my full-time job. Like at the time, it was more of a problem that I wanted to solve, but it became like a full-time job that I'm happy to. It's not really so much of a work. Like I'm happy to, in a way, I'm happy to do it like every day, and I have to like solve these things. Like basically like challenges will be like loading different like files, like supporting like for instance SVG. I was working this weekend supporting SVG files. So like before, well, like usually we support 3D files, and you know, if you have done any 3D modeling, you always know that it's very specific, the files that you have to export to. It's always like a problem to like be able to like to move files from one place to another place. So that like a thing, like we try to support as many files as we can, many file formats as we can, and to also like display, like render things properly. So like that cube example is probably the most basic one, but like let's see. If we go to examples, we have better things than not use cubes. Like I think this will be a good one, for instance. So yeah, this also like goes with the, like also in tandem with like another project called GLTF, that is basically a new file format for like 3D files. And this model is always going to look the same way in any kind of engine that is loading it, or any kind of software that is loading it. So it's a thing that we we'll try to make sure that we support it as well as we can. Another good example will be, let's see. Probably this one, although yeah, it's not really only for like static models, but like, you know, but this is kind of like, you know, this is on the browser, and this is the kind of rendering that we help you to have. You don't have to understand how the math behind it works. You just load the model and put the textures, and we take care of the rendering of it, and it's always interactive. Yeah, there's a ton of examples, or like many different parts of, like many different like aspects, like in this case we were like physics, or like post processing, or like, you know, there are many kind of like ways of using this library. Like visualizations is, yeah, probably like a very good use case. Yeah, that's about it. WASM. WASM is like a way of like basically converting native C++ or C code. Well, I guess you're not saying it, but like, yeah, it's a way of like not having to type. All this is done in JavaScript, by the way. So WASM is like a way of like, if you have like some code that is done in C, or like in a native language like Java or whatever, you can compile it to this new, not really like language, but like this binary in a way, that is basically a way of being able to reuse the code that you have written in C already. Like if you have a game for like, you know, iOS or like Android, you can export it as WASM and then it runs on the web. The only issue with it is that it's good for like applications, for big applications, but it's good for like porting work that you have, like a game that you have done, but it's going to be a very big file that you have to like, you know, it's going to be a big file that you have to load. Unless you re-engineer the application, it's going to take, you have to like download 100 megabytes or something. In this case, because we've done it everything from start from the web, so usually the minimum thing is going to take like something like 120 kilobytes or something. Like that's the thing, like we need to, whenever you do stuff with the web, we need to load as fast as you can and like be as less as data that you can to transfer. The contributor thing, that's also like an interesting, and that's a little bit like part of I think what is more in a way relatable is the complexity of like kind of running what would be like a community. Like when I started this, I wasn't really you know, you're just not aware of the things that you're going to find, and like somehow like now I have a community of people like like, you know, we have so far they have like we have 900 contributors. Let's see what it was. Let's see what it is right now. Yeah, 933 contributors. Doesn't mean like there are active 900 contributors, but there's like active, there is probably like 5 currently, like people every day, like, or like probably a bit more like working daily and like helping daily. So my job is basically like going to like notifications, and whenever I can actually program and do like improvement myself, or like it's become to a point that it's just yeah, a little bit of managing, like going through all the new features, like people submit improvements. Like I don't want to click onto one of them because otherwise I may. All right, let's see if there is one I can deal with. Let's see, for instance, this one is like Takahiro contributor is adding features to like a loader for this file format, for instance. And so basically I had to like, and there's a discussion for every improvement that is done. And usually there's a bunch of people that are like responsible for like parts of the library. I don't do the whole, like there are many parts of the library that I don't even understand myself. But like some people, they get responsible like this, some parts of it. So in this case, yeah, I guess I tend to like read all the discussions, but like a good way of skimming, kind of see what the you know, in this case, that is the code is not ready. So this is a discussion, but like here's probably like all the changes that they have been done, and like the things that have been removed, the things that have been added. And so I guess in this case I can move on to like the next one until until like they find the right solution for this specific problem. But yeah, like whenever you have all these discussions between people. Sometimes there may be conflict between people. People are people, and whenever you do that, you basically also like have a responsible community that you want to make sure that everyone is having, you know, all these they're doing it mostly for free because they enjoy it. So you want to make sure that what they're doing is they're having a good time while doing it. And if you sometimes you get like people that are can be a little bit harsh. Sometimes you get people that are actually, you know, they're trolls is a harsh way of saying it, but yeah, you need to learn how to like deal with that kind of people without creating more conflicts. Let's see. I've not been reading the chat too much. But yeah, that's a little bit of the process that it takes to develop all this. Also, something that helps a lot whenever you put yourself in a project like this is that, in this case, I'm basically I used to be a designer, so I'm building the tool that I wish I had. So in a way, I'm doing it for myself, and I know, and I've been there. I've been using those tools. Like I've been using 3D Studio before, like Photoshop, like Illustrator, and I've been using all those tools, so I know the pains that you had to deal with, and if there is something that doesn't work, there is no way that you can change it. So somehow I had like the great idea of like creating my own thing, and without really being aware of the consequences or like the complications of it. But I've been there, so I know that whenever like trying to make, if we have an issue with like one thing not being stable, I remember like, yeah, this is important. We don't want people to, you know, we don't want to be again in a situation where you cannot load a file format, or you cannot, or like your application is crashing or something. So the open source burnouts from Jordan Kyle. I think that's that's part of my personality. There is some people that will want to do these kind of things, and they will have a hard time because that's not how they're wired, I guess. Okay, so I guess the main reasons why people get burnout is because sometimes, like, this is open source. This is for anyone to use, anyone to do whatever they want with it. Sometimes there's some people that get they feel that you're working for them. Sometimes there's people that they feel entitled to say like, you know, I want this feature and can I have it for tomorrow, and like stuff like that. It's very easy, and in part, like, GitHub is part of the problem with it, I think, because it makes it somehow very easy for like someone to like go here and like create a new issue and say like, this thing is not working, or like I have this problem that is not working, and like how do you? Ideally, GitHub will provide some like options to like make it like not that easy to create an issue, or like make sure that the person is creating the issue really is providing all the information that we need. But like, you get a lot of people saying like, this is not working, can you fix it for me? So we have like a lot of like, we had some people, oh hi Marpy, we have a bunch of people that are like dealing with but it's just like contributors. They're just making sure that all that is understood for the community, that section is not for that. Like, we have a forum for those kind of things. So so like we have like Slack, we have like well, I guess I'm the only one using IRC. When I go to, we have a forum, and this is like a more appropriate place for asking this kind of questions whenever you have a problem with it. but I don't actually spend time here. I spend more time on the issue section. So yeah, the problem is, especially at the beginning, that there is a lot of people that ask for features, and then you have to like somehow like make them understand that, like, you know, I'm doing what I can, I'm solving other things, like, and you need to like be transparent on what it is that you're solving or you're focused on. And in a way, like, you need to find a way of like making that issue, maybe documenting it and making it visible if it is something that you want to fix, and maybe someone is going to like see what you're doing and want to help you out and try to solve that issue so you can continue working on other issues. But there's definitely like a problem at the beginning of like not trying to be too accessible. Like at the beginning, like the first years, there was a lot of people complaining that there were not documentation, for instance. So for instance, like now we have a pretty decent documentation. Like you don't have to look at the source. Like you want to use let's see, like say a cylinder. It shows how the cylinder looks like, and like we have a preview of how it looks like and the options for it. And here's like the code, like this is the type, the code that you need to type in order to use it, basically. So the first 2 years we didn't have any of this, and it was kind of intentional, because if you make it too easy, then there's more people that are coming and more people that are asking for things, but we're still like building a language that is not defined yet. So yeah, it was kind of intentional, but also like a good way of like, you know, if you're using this, it's because you know what you're doing. Like we cannot make it super easy so far, because we're gonna get more people that don't know what they're doing and they're asking for things, and you need to explain them. And yeah, there's still a lot of like problems. There's a lot of things that we cannot solve easily, and we need to like teach some of the users like this is how this works. This is limitation is because of, you know, something is not like on 3, it's something that is like a problem of like graphics in general. And in a way, like what we try to make sure, like what we try to make is that like you don't understand, like you need to understand what it is happening underneath. Like underneath, like this is basically sitting on top of like what's WebGL, and WebGL, let's see, it's a more raw kind of like language. That will be a good example. Maybe this one. Let's see. You can see it. Yeah, like for instance, for like on WebGL, you had to like type all this code that is basically like shader code. So it's a way lower, like a way lower kind of language, and it's more like math based, and you need to understand what, like, you know, in this case where like uniforms are, where attributes are, like variants, like all those attributes that you want to use, or like how you want to manipulate all that information, and then eventually what you know what you're doing, you end up with a scene like that. But that can be pretty time consuming. So the idea is to like make it easier, so you're more like thinking on the scene that you want to create, and we transform this code into the other code for you, basically. That may be, I don't know if that's too much information. Let's see, what other questions? Yeah, going back to working on this it is actually a very interesting process. Whenever I see like someone working, you know, like yeah, like blood is also a good example. Like these processes you have to like deal with, and it has helped a lot to like if you can apply like something like GitHub to all the types of like fields. Basically, you had to like make sure that from the beginning, well, you basically like sign the contract that whatever you're doing is open source in a way, or like you can use GitHub in a private way. There are like things that probably can help to like organization and stuff, but it's more like designed for like programming. But there are like all these systems that are, if there was something like this, but it was not too much. Like if there was something like for design or like for like ideas, and like let's see if there is an example. Like in this case, I was showing let's see. There is you can see what happened, for instance, like this is all the history of every change. And let's see if I can find, I think this is a good one. You can see the code that changed in that time. So this person like added those 2 lines and removed this line, but also this applies to, maybe this is not a good example. If you change an image, it also shows, you can also it doesn't show exactly what the image changed, what in the image changed, but you can see that the image changed. You can see like that the image used to be like this, and now the image is like that. And at some point, they also did something similar for like 3D models. So you can see what the model used to be before and what the new model, or like what the addition was. So you can easily apply these kind of like ideas, like versioning basically, to any kind of like project that you're doing, any kind of field, I think. What is the biggest thing you learn from supporting and curating the community? Biggest thing. The thing that I'm more surprised about is the, I guess whenever you do something for a long time, like there's some people that are gonna want to help you out, and I still struggle trying to understand like, why are you guys helping? I don't understand. But I guess if I guess it's something that is somehow human. Whenever you're trying to help someone to do something, like someone that you see that has like a drive for something, you feel that you want to help them. That's kind of like open source in general. Like from the outside, is, you know, we are all very used to, you know, I'm not working for free and stuff. So whenever you see someone that is like doing something that is also their passion, somehow you feel like you also want to join. Also, you need to understand that you need to make sure. I don't think you're gonna like help that person if you think that they have they're doing something for like selling it or something. At some point, you're not gonna want to like help that person, or you're gonna like feel like you want to help that person unless you get something else in benefit or like in exchange. But if you see someone like, no, this person is trying to like help, is trying to build something that is for everyone and is making it for passion, like as a passion thing. He's not getting anything out of it apart from like solving his own problems and also other people solving other problems. You somehow like start to like feel that you want to also help that person. That's something that I'm still have a hard time to kind of build, you know, and not a knowledge, but like get used to it. That people just go there and like help you, and like, you know, there's even like on community sites, there is some people that are like sometimes gonna be like a person that is mean to another contributor, and it's not even like, or like maybe a person that is mean to me, and someone else is gonna tell him like, please be respectful. So it's not even me, like the community itself kind of make sure that everyone is, you know, behaving properly. And for like at the beginning, like this is now like whenever like people start helping you, at the beginning you can get like people that are mean to each other, and it's fine. Like I'm totally fine if someone is mean to me, but it's a problem whenever like someone is mean to a contributor, because that contributor is helping me out, and I don't want, you know, if someone else is like being disrespectful to that person that is helping out, then that's actually a problem that will be a time that I'm like, okay, I need to like really step on this and like make sure that this person doesn't do it again. So I haven't banned a lot of people, but I have banned some people, and sadly, although those people then change their names and they come back again. um, but yeah, so far, surprisingly, it's been fairly manageable. I heard like some situations, but like I think in open source there tend to be more issues on whenever you start like creating events, whenever like people go to an actual physical space, and there's more human interaction and there's more conflicts, more problems. But like in this case, like the interaction that I had to deal with it whenever it happens on on this issues section. And yeah, so far I think they're behaving like everything is pretty respectful to each other, and it's, also there are like a couple of things that I'm like, I'm also like acknowledge that there is, you can like right now it's still like under my user, like my username, and it's probably not like, I consider like making it an organization so it's less personal, but like I think so far whenever you make an organization then there is more discussion. I don't know, I think I will, everyone is free, like well, that's another thing of like open source. If someone disagrees with what I'm doing, everyone is free to like copy or like fork what I've done and like do their own version. But I think I still, because it's a problem that I'm still want to solve, I think I prefer to like doing it in my own kind of approach, without having to like argue, without making an organization and having to like try to convince someone else about why do I want it to be this way. Like something I feel strongly about it is to make sure that the whatever like the final, you know, like this, like here we have all the source, like all those this is like all the source for like, you know, like lights or whatever. All this code eventually gets compiled into these files. This is the actual file that you include in your project, and I feel strongly that that this file, well, like here is gonna like look that is well, it takes some time to load, but like here is gonna show that it's like 500 kilobytes. But like whenever you actually compress it, is whenever like you serve it to the user, it's actually gonna be like 100 kilobytes. Like for instance, nowadays it's 134. So this is something I feel strongly about it. I want to make sure that it's as small as possible. And if you start like, I think if you make an organization, there may be some people that have like some other ideas, and there may be some people that want to add more features to it and not worry, like they have a different priorities, and it's not like a conversation I will want to like, you know, at that point I will have to like fight for it, and it's so far it's like tiring enough to not have to like, that I prefer to avoid those common discussions at this point. Let's see, let's go to the chat. mr.doob is just trying to create but there could be like a 3.3.js org or something. But yeah, Ving at the center, Ving on the other side as well. The current state of graphic design or UI design. Well, I think that, yeah, like I used to be a designer, but like then while doing this thing I lost track a little bit, and somehow I'm going like deeper into web development, and somehow I'm starting to care more about like using the web properly and that kind of tools, like those kind of like issues. I think graphic designing is like is fine. Like, and look, everything looks good to me. And actually, what I'm trying to, what I enjoy is that I'm in a position that I try to, that if there are some things that are not effective, like somehow like creating all these things, all right, so for instance, like on Facebook 3 weeks ago, something like that, they added like now you can share 3D models on your feed. So on Facebook, instead of like on top of like sharing text and images, now you can like also share 3D models. And that was in part like because, you know, WebGL, and in part because like because it's using this code, it's using the project that I'm working on, and because it's just basically too easy not to use it. Like, you're basically setting up a base of like this is the minimum, as minimum as good as something can be. So you use these, and then from top, then you add value to it. So for them, probably it will be like, for Facebook, it will have probably be harder to do something from scratch to display those 3D models than not to use what I really been working on. So, you know, they're free to use it. And on top of that, like I've been working on an editor itself. So which also helps to like visualize this thing. Like here, you have this editor that it's pretty basic, but like well, this is a friend of mine. It's pretty basic, but you can basically like compose your scene and add lights. Like, you can also add some like some interactions in code and stuff. But like, yeah, like it's basically like a way of creating your own kind of. In my case, I'm using it for like some kind of like experiments, but like this is more like when I started doing this was for like because I wanted to do, like, I was working on a game and I wanted to have an editor for the game. So yeah, this was like a very basic 3D editor. And then from here, going back to the Facebook posts, 3D posts, now here we can export this GLB file, which is the file format that they're using for those models, for like being able to upload those to 3D files. So you want to have like this object in your feed, you just export it from here, which is basically, it creates this file, and then you drag this into your feed, and then it just displays properly. So because we have been building all these things for like all these years, now we are at the point that having this is just it's very easy for us to like add the features that we need in order to support like a new feature on a different platform. Like if Facebook is adding this, for like us, it's like, oh, we have an editor, so we're gonna add this port, and now you can use an editor to like the editor, like open source, and without username require or anything, user password, and you can use it, export it, and then it's done. So it's a way of like making sure that, you know, it allows us to like not have to be like, oh, you want to load to Facebook, wow, you had to like install this application and this and that. So somehow, like, now we have a set of tools that we can we can help the people to have like options without having to, you know, give them information to a company or something. Black Mountain, talking about contribution, which how do you maintain the quality? How do you ensure the project is going the direction you want, and how do you maintain the quality of the code? That is a good question. There are for the quality of the code, there's something that it has helped in a non-traditional way. Is basically like usual, like like for instance, what's a good example? So a good example maybe is these classes for for like this, you have like a 3D point, you're gonna have a vector for the x and y and z coordinates, and we have all this class that you want to multiply one with each other. You have all these functions here that you multiply this one, and you can see what you need to pass one or the other one, and multiply a scalar will like multiply all those values with one number. And as you can notice, like usually this is not the way of doing. Usually there is always here this comment that describes what this thing does, this function does. And I kind of like felt, I always try to like not, I have tried to not document code because then that way it forces you to like make it readable. It's a little bit of a excuse, but at the same time, I think it works that way. Like all that code is, whenever you read it and you know what you're reading, it makes sense. Whenever you start like adding code, it just makes harder to read the code and makes it like more, I think it makes it more messy somehow. There are like definitely some parts of the code that like, well, sometimes we need to add some descriptions or some comments into it because it will be hard to like, because maybe it's something that you need to be aware of in order to change something. But I think that has helped quite a lot of like making the code kind of like clean and easy to follow and like maintainable. Also something that because I'm still the person that approves every change. Like there's people that will say like, oh, this looks like they what's the word? They basically on the issues like there's contributors that they can say that something looks good. Basically, they let's see if I can find one example. Pull requests. Let's say this one, for instance. This one is one that I had to take a look today. Well, this one hasn't been approved. Well, usually when they are approved, I merge them directly. But anyway, like I'm the person that is, this one looks good. I'm the one that is gonna be, like for instance, if this one looks good, I'm the one that is gonna like merge it here, and like I usually type things, but I kind of like I tend to like read all the changes and understand the consequences and see that it's not gonna break anything, or it's not gonna like cause any problem. So because of that, I think basically is keeping the code small enough so it can basically stay in my head, and I can I make sure that I understand by limiting to like by being the bottleneck is somehow like making everything small enough, or it's not too big enough that it's not too complex. So there are like some code bases, for instance, like you use Chrome, for instance. Chrome is a huge project, like and it's very difficult for like it's impossible for like someone to like even understand like some parts of it like very easily. So there's a lot of effort on like making it more on testing and making sure that whenever you change something doesn't break other things. But like in this case, I can still have all the code, the core of the project on my head, so I can see if someone changed something, I can think of like what the consequences are going to be, or if it's going to break something else. So I think that's another like way of making it small enough and like maintainable enough. That's it basically fits in my human head. What do you think? The future of the browser is both for desktop and mobile. Oh, that's a lot of questions in one. What do you think is the future of the browser is for both in desktop and mobile? And interaction air versus mouse. There is yeah, right now there's with all AR and VR happening, there's the question of how is the web going to adapt to how does the web look like in VR, or how does the web look like in AR? So far, you have tried like any like headset like a Daydream VR, or probably those are the main ones that have like a browser. You basically are, whenever you go into the web, you are presented with like a panel in front of you that you can like interact with it. You can point and do select things. So it's basically like having a floating screen in front of you. But in a way, like also the web was always designed for like being documents, like flat documents. So it's a little bit weird to like they want, you know, so there are some options to making like how does the web look like. Maybe like we can make that some of the panels are like in different positions, or yeah, I don't think that's something that we're still like trying to explore. But I think there's more. I think there are more parts of the web that are more applicable to VR than not what will be like the actual rendering of the page. I think it's more. It's going to be more interesting to see, to be able to go to be like, for instance, in augmented reality, and go to see one object, and then being able to point to that object, and that object like loading the website for that object. So, and like that's something that the web is that's what it is. Like there's like there are links for everything. There, like in fact, like whenever you buy a product, sometimes whenever you buy a device, sometimes it doesn't come with a manual, but you can search for it. You can the websites are gonna like the companies, they provide the manuals for every device that you're buying. So something like that, like if you have like eventually we have you know, some glasses or some lenses, and we can see the object and recognize it and say like, oh, I want to have the document or the menu for that thing. The web is pretty good for that. You know, like it's an infrastructure that has been set up for like hosting documents or information, and you can apply that, like in this case with like a manual, but you can apply it for like information about the thing, or like maybe like displaying like loading animation around it, or like it's more like a, you know, way of like an infrastructure that's already set up for like fetching information. That's more like the part of the web that I can see is more applicable. But like the current websites itself is going to be, yeah, so far I think we'll see how that applies to VR or AR. But also that's something that like what I've been working, like for instance, like this WebGL and 3GS stuff is more applicable to VR and AR than not. Like people that are working on HTML, like CSS and like flat stuff, they will have to like wait for the browser to somehow like figure out a way of like how to you know, how to transfer that content into AR and VR. But in the case of like whenever you actually render your 3D scene for like, for me it's fairly easy to like render that 3D scene for in VR instead. Which is something that, yeah, like if it wasn't hard enough already like to solve the problems of like creating 3D scenes, like now it's like, oh, now we had to like create also 3D scenes for like VR and AR. So there's more, you had to like adapt things, or you need to render things in different ways. So there's always even more work to do. Like it's somehow it's escalating a little bit the amount of work that needs to be done. Can you share something exciting you have seen, read from the recent weeks? What will be an example? Oh, so I have let's see. This is the place where I'm tend to like collect anything that I'm seeing. I tend to put on Google Plus. Let's see. This is like the kind of thing that I see on Twitter, or like someone sent them to me, the kind of thing that people are doing with it, which probably should have shown in the beginning. Like, I think this one was strange. Strange enough. Strange enough. Actually, now that yeah. I like to see this kind of strange websites, which is which is the kind of thing that people were doing with Flash at the time. I'm not super sure how you're supposed to navigate it. Well, I guess this is their project that way. Actually, I remember one that I really like. Let's see if I find it. Maybe I didn't put it here yet. Maybe not yet. Oh, this one was fairly famous some weeks ago. Doesn't well uses 3, but I think is what he's done is way more. Wow, of course. Oh. So in this case, like he's done more of a work on the physics. Like the engine doesn't really like provide you this to be able to do this kind of thing. Like he's built a lot on top of it. Like he doesn't, yeah. But like this is like an example of the kind of weird things that people like they do, like this remix of like Mario, like they do like an application for like I guess in this case he's just using magic, like maybe this is on, but yeah, probably there's an article, or like this one also. Yeah, I think it kind of shows the variation of the things that people can do, like not being a very like too opinionated kind of like project that people can do things that don't look alike basically to each other. They tend to be 3D. They don't even need to be 3D. But like this is how the kind of websites that people do with it. Now, what will be another example? Like something like big projects, or something like YouTube, or like some bigger like brands are starting to use it. I don't know if this one still works. Like sometimes like it will even be like a New York Times article that uses that for like illustrating the project, like illustrating a new article, like a new feature basically. Yeah, I'm trying to find one in particular, but maybe I'm not gonna find it. What's this one, I think? I think so. Or maybe not. No. It was similar to this. But yeah, you can basically like it shows the kind of websites that people can build with it. Like they're still, I think they're still like somehow HTML, but they're pretty good at mixing HTML with more like flashy, I guess, graphics on top of it. Yeah, I'm not gonna find that one. Anyway, I'll go to the chat. Yeah, a lot of very similar high-res kind of stuff. YouTube channels? No. I only watch if there is something that I watch maybe often, will be like the Colbert, the Stephen Colbert, the Tonight Show with Colbert, but that's about it. Mainly like you know, being in US and having like a optimistic view at the end of the day, or whatever, like whatever the news are happening. But I don't think no, I don't really follow too many YouTube channels, like specifically. I do follow like something I will share, for instance. Let's see, how do I find that? I may have to like reduce the music for this. This is something, well, you can kind of see the the kind of things that I watch. Yes, I think you guys may enjoy this. I'll stop this for a second. This is something from last weekend, and this is kind of the where I come from. Like I used to be a designer, but also like I used to do 3D modeling and real-time graphics, which is what this is. And this is the kind of thing like that informed me on creating the world that I'm doing now. But like this is from that world that I come from. Like this is one of the best things that has come out like recently. Well, before that, this this is a video version of what the actual file. This is an executable file for Windows. So whenever you execute it, it displays what we're gonna see. And the file itself is just like for 4K, meaning like for 4,000 bytes, basically. So somehow the guy managed to include the music generator, and like on all this 3D scene that we're gonna see. He managed to like fit it in only for 4,000 bytes. Yeah. yeah, everything is in 4K for 4,000 bytes. Like what I like is that it runs not only like it's very probably, I don't know, maybe I'll say it later. So this is a little bit of an extreme of like how basically showing very well, like controlling very well the kind of things that you can do with the computer, and really like pushing the limits that you can do. Like you know, this is on my website. I do similar things, but like I find it like, you know, for instance, this is a similar kind of explorations of things that you can do like in the smaller space. But so in this case, I'm using like the 3 years library to like creating all these experiments, which actually we also can see how they are done for all of them. Like for instance, this one, on each one you can go and edit it. Oh, sorry, it doesn't display it. Like in this one, it's only this object, but you can go and click on edit and you see, oh, I think I just clicked it. There you go. Yeah. You can see how each one was done and kind of explore the code and everything. So this is because I come from that world, and I come from like people really trying to get to do the machine to do as much as possible with the machine. I see that, I know that the kind of things that we can do with it, and I'm trying to bring that kind of like I guess mastering, but like I guess more like optimization. Like right now, like we still, you know, it doesn't matter if you like get like faster computers, everything gets slower eventually. But like it's more because we get used to that. But like I enjoy whenever we get the best out of the computers somehow. Mr. is a programmer. Well, I actually I haven't really said that, but like at the beginning, like when I was starting with computers, my brother was the one that is programming. He's the programmer of the family, and when I'm gonna maybe show the one that is, well, all this stuff. When I was curious, that's probably when I was like 10 years ago. So when I was 10 years old, sorry. And I would tell him that I wanted to, or maybe I told him that I wanted to learn programming, and then he said like, well, in order to learn programming, you need to learn what bits and bytes are, and I didn't understand it. So probably then it was, you know, somehow it was clear like, okay, if I don't understand what bits and bytes are, then I'm not a programmer. So then I started doing graphic design instead, and that lasted for like I guess 10, or that was the first 10, 15 years of doing stuff with computers. But then eventually like started like learning PHP to do like more web stuff. Like you do a website, what you want to do like a website that you can like input some stuff and it's gonna like do something like a dynamic website basically. And then I started like with PHP. Then eventually from PHP I went to like ActionScript or like Flash, and yeah, like slowly like I realized that I actually was learning how to program but like not C, like not in a native way, like more like in a scripting way. But like I'm not now. I probably can deal with like C code and like memory and stuff, but it's not. I don't find it that interesting. So yeah, like from there, like I ended up like doing like websites for kind of like campaigns, like Chanel and Dolce Gabbana, like Chicken Master, like these kind of clients, so these kind of projects, but like doing the back end, well, doing the website itself, but in a more like it was more flashy. So it was not like doing the back end stuff. It was more like doing the interaction or the programming, the programming the website, and somehow from there I started like building tools. And at the time on Flash, I probably one of the first things that I did open source was like a widget that it will allow you to show you or to like measure if your animations, the animations that you're doing on your website is running fast enough for the frames per second that it's running. And that was one of the first things that I made open source and kind of get. It was a good start because it was a small thing, but then I saw what the process was to do that, and that some people were like sometimes ask for features, sometimes were like people will like submit features that you're not that doesn't align with what you're doing. Sometimes they're doing things that are exactly the things that you will have done, which those are the best. Those are the most amazing situations. But yeah, and I kept going from there. Like whenever it got to a point that I felt like doing something like a library like 3, it felt like like another thing like how it keeps me going is because I know that whenever you do some projects, you're gonna do a website that is gonna or you're gonna do a project that is a website that's gonna last maybe like a year, and then they're gonna like replace it with another website if it's for like marketing stuff. So after you do a bunch of them, you get to a point that you want to do something that has more impact or is more meaningful. So doing like an open source project like an library, it's for sure like it helps. You feel good because you're doing something that is it's gonna stay there and gonna like other people are gonna inspire other people. People are gonna do stuff with it, but you feel that you're spending your time in a more, or at least I feel that I'm spending my time in a more efficient way, I guess, or more like you do something that other people are going to build on top on. Like you don't do something that maybe is going to die at some point. Yeah, that's really how kind of went on. And on my time on the demo scene, which is when I was a designer, I actually never programmed anything. Maybe at the end I started programming, but I was always the guy doing the drawings with pixel by pixel or like 3D modeling things. But I will work with my brother or other people to create these kind of things. I should try to put them back at some point. My experience in US in San Francisco so far. So I'm originally from Barcelona and spent some time in London. So I'm more used to old countries and old cities where there's always a center that you can walk around, and or like you have shops on the streets and you can go from shop to buy things. Like I'm in US, they don't have that much of that because it's more of a cities that they have been built with vehicles at the time already, so everything is very spread, and you had to like use a lot of share rides like Uber or Lyft to move from one place to another place, which is something that I'm not very used to. Like I'm more used to like taking public transport or like walking basically. Those are kind of the more contrast, the more like the more different things. And yeah, like and shopping is also weird because you're used to like go to a shop. In Europe, you're used to go to down to shop, and usually there is whatever you want to buy. You know there's a shop that you can find it. But here, you basically like give up eventually and say like I want to buy this thing and go to this place. Of course, they don't have it, and eventually you just get used to like buy everything online. So all I think it just seems like here that everything is all about like getting packages all the time from Amazon or the other things. It's not, it's not the end of the world. And probably it's optimized in a way, but like it's somehow less human. It seems like it's less human. Yeah. What else are you guys interested about? I don't know if there are more interesting things about the project itself, but about shopping, right? Oh, my experience with lots. I don't know how. I don't know. So the reason, yeah, I think if I'm not like a very fashionable person. I don't. Oh, sorry. Let me put back the music. It's a little bit dry. Yeah, I usually haven't cared too much about the fashion myself, or like I tend to like just buy things whenever something breaks, basically. So it was more. So I don't think if I if I hadn't had like time, if I hadn't met like the guys behind lots in the past, probably I wouldn't have found it myself, or I wouldn't. Yeah, I think it's more of a like knowing. Oh, I see. I wouldn't have it myself, but because I know the people behind it, I'm always like following what they're doing, and I can see, I know where they're coming from and what they're interested in. So I ended up like trying it because I find it like I think I think the values align very closely to also like my values somehow. And I think it's like there are like so far like there are like many things that I will never buy myself. Like whenever I receive it, like oh, how does this work? I guess I had to learn how does this work. So it's a good discovery experience so far for me. What do you think the future of our surrounding subjects furniture is hold for us? I think I'll need more. Can you expand that question a little bit? What do you think the future of our surroundings, objects, furniture is holds for us? I use Atom. I never used Video Emacs. Never used it. But I'm a tabs person though. How technology and software will change the way things are made, discovered. I think it sure is well. I think that's an interesting thing. Like going back to the U.S. like issue of not having to buy things online. I think there is a lot of like you don't whenever you go to store, like physical store, you're browsing. That is something that you basically don't do online. Online you scroll things, but you don't really know if those things are the right size, or maybe they are the right size, but like, you know, maybe your feet are not on this, like for instance a shoe example, like your feet are not the size is not what your feet doesn't fit you well. That is something that whenever you know, in the physical world, you're walking around, you're just browsing aimlessly, you just things that you can try and you can discover the way, and you make sure that the purchase you're going to make is more fitting to so I think probably it's going to help eventually. Things like AR isn't really, like, you know, if you want to buy like furniture, you have to go to IKEA at this point and like look at things, but also in that specific case, whenever you go to IKEA, you cannot know if the thing that you're buying is going to fit on your place, how it's going to look like. So that's something that AR is actually going to be pretty good for, like being able to see, like, I'm going to buy this thing and this is going to look here, and then you can actually preview how it's actually going to look like. Or whenever you do, being able to pre-visualize things is going to help a lot for that. But like, if there is a manufacturing thing that is not going to a quirk that is not represented on the AR visualization, is not going to be something that you can really do, but it sure is going to help. It's going to be an improvement on what we have right now, that is just only, like, you know, Amazon pages that you can scroll and see products. But you can, I think there's something into like seeing the product in place. Like whenever you go shopping aimlessly, you're seeing different things that you're not looking for, and some of them may like give you some ideas. So like some of them is something that you didn't know that you like, but you can really see it in place, and you can like interact with the object. Hopefully, like, VR and AR is gonna help a little bit on making that a little bit, like bringing that experience to more not isolated, but more like spread cities, and also like kind of like also make it optimized, so you don't have to go to the shop to try the thing. You can try it at home. But if you want to like explore, it's something that I think the physical world is something that is obviously we haven't much yet. I don't use Reddit, but I do use Hacker News from time to time. I basically, like, when I'm online, I'm most of the time on Twitter or Instagram. If I have a little bit of time, obviously on GitHub. If I have some time, I'll go to Hacker News, or the worst thing will be like if I'm very, very bored, I will go to The Verge. But I try to also like to go to some more visual, kind of like more like artistic kind of. Like in that case, I have spent more time on Instagram. I'm trying to do a creation of like feeds that are like doing more artistic than not only like tech stuff. Like being in San Francisco, that's the thing. Like everything is very which is part of like the reason why I decided to come here, because all the VR was happening, and it was a good place to be for making sure that if you want VR to be on the web, the discussion is kind of happening here. You want to help on that, and not making sure that the web doesn't get left out of that transition. But then it means that all on San Francisco there is a lot of meetups and everything, a lot of like events that is basically tech related, and then it's not a lot of art in general. But you know, somehow you can still find some things and like some events that are that bring that art side, make things a little bit more less about like, yeah, nothing wrong with tech, but it's just, yeah, it's whenever someone is only talking about like technical problems, it eventually gets you know, I have my own technical problems, you have your own technical problems. I don't enjoy like that kind of discussion that much, but I enjoy whenever like an artist is trying to do something and needs a tool to, or like it needs like a technical solution for it, because at the end of the day, what the artist is trying to do something, is not trying to solve you know, a bug or something. So that is something, yeah, in San Francisco it's hard to find, but it's related. Like I don't try to go to Hacker News that much, because it's all that kind of discussion all the time. Or yeah, it just becomes a little bit very centric to that, which I also enjoy. But like I'm trying to move away a little bit from there. Yeah, I saw that. Oh wait, I guess I should click here. I should share this. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw this memo experiment. Machine learning is seems pretty fun to play with, but it just, I think you get to a point that there's like not that many things that you can do in your time. And I think it was especially in my 20s. In my 20s I was trying everything. I was trying like programming, I was doing graphic design, I was doing like illustration, I was doing music. But then whenever I got to my 30s, it was like, all right, I need to focus on something that I'm good at. So that's what I've been doing so far. And machine learning is a little bit like that. Like, oh, I will play with it, but it's just I really need to focus on what I'm doing right now. Otherwise, you know, I'm not as efficient, or I'm not doing as good as I can. Like and yeah, it seems like there's a lot of like exploration and experimentation at this point, which it feels bad to not be part of that discussion or to be part of that exploration. But yeah, it feels envious a little bit. I'd rather like do these kind of things, and like, you know, when doing these kind of things, or these kind of experiments, I'll be like, oh, maybe I'm missing, you know, if I go to the editor or something, I will realize that maybe I'm missing some feature here, and then I'll actually add the feature like in program. You know, it's a funny situation whenever you're trying to create something and also the tool for it, because you keep like there's no end, like it fits each other basically. I need to do also this kind of experiment to know that what needs to be done for the tool. And it's not only like focusing on the code itself. But yeah, I think if I had like more time, but I'm trying to get a little bit more, the whole project more scalable or more maintainable. If I start to have more free time, I will go back to experimentations. I used to do more experiments at the time, like, you know, like this is kind of the early days of like HTML5, and like probably one of the more famous ones were like maybe like this one, or like probably the more famous ones, yeah, the Google one breaking at the time. So I used to do more of these kind of explorations, but those are more like one-off kind of things, which is kind of the thing that people are doing these days with machine learning in a way. Yeah, lots of silly things. Well, although this one is from 2 years ago, it's not that old, but like, wow, it's a bit slow. My computer is dying with all the streaming and everything. Oh, interesting. It's because it's Canvas 2D. Anyway, but yeah, like I wish we would play a little bit more with that. Yeah, creating tools is yeah, it's something. It's also part of what I'm trying to encourage people to like have some basic tools and have some basic reference so people can build tools on top of it, or yeah, not being locked in you know in stuff in creative tools that you had to pay for. It's basically like the Linux kind of like um, idea, like trying to work on it so you have like an alternative that you don't have to like pay a corporation, no, not a corporation, but like pay a company for using it. Yeah. Something also kind of going back to the community stuff. I noticed like for instance in the Linux community, it seems to be like seems to be a little bit of more of not that friendly in general, and they tend to be like more like this people talking that one person is not being friendly or like supportive. And somehow like I do understand it, because whenever you start to build this kind of whenever you start these projects, you're trying to solve a problem, basically trying to solve a problem that you have found yourself, and you want to try to make sure that no one else has to deal with that problem again. So whenever I see someone like Linus Torvalds, the guy that created Linux being harsh to people, and people being annoyed because he's being harsh, like I do understand it, that when he started Linux, he didn't mean to create a community. Like now the community is part of it, and he probably didn't want to have to deal with people. He just wanted to solve that specific problem. So there's an extra thing, like, oh, I'm building this thing and the community is coming, and now we have all these people that I had to be nice to, and I cannot make specific jokes and this and that. So yeah, it's good to it's like an additional thing that you somehow need to be kind of prepared, depending on what approach you're doing. If you're doing open source, you may have, and if you're doing open source and you're successful, you'll also have to like be nice with people and like and deal with the community. Basically, that's what you're signing for. How do you deal with the more math-related requirements in 3D? You can. How do you deal with more math-related requirements in 3D? Do you have to educate yourself in school, otherwise, or can you still Google through everything? I actually didn't go to university. I didn't go to college or anything. I have like basic elementary school only. So I just started copying other people's code, or like someone probably released, someone shared their code for like doing some 3D thing, and probably I just started using it and modifying it, and slowly started to understand how it works. And that was in 2004, I think, 2005. So slowly, the more you start like tweaking things or trying things, slowly you just learn how different parts of the code, and you eventually want to build your own thing, and you kind of learn out of there. But I'm not very good at I'm not very good at understanding the math behind it. Like I understand it if I have to, but then whenever I'm done, like if it's a problem, then I need to understand the math behind it and fix it. I'll understand it, but whenever I'm done with it, I forget everything about it, and then I'll have to like remember it again, like learn it again. So in a way, it's actually like a good thing. It's fairly easy to not try to understand everything, but just try to understand bits by bits, and eventually you kind of understand or you can build something out of the whole thing. But definitely when I shared 3 for the first time, when I put it on GitHub, there was a lot of code that I was not understanding at all, and I didn't have under control, and there was like contributors that like fix it for me. I can see for that. Yeah, no, not at all. I don't have a math are not good at all. Like that, I'm not good at they're not. I'm not good at math at all. I don't like their concepts. Like I understand them in a more like visual way. I know like so for instance for doing 3D things you had to deal with what's called matrices, which basically like encode the position, rotation, and scale of every object in 3D space. And I can see visually that you can multiply one with the other one and somehow that translates and that applies those things. I know that I can see visually because I grew up like using experimenting and doing things with 3D Studio Max, but I don't really I can understand at some point what the math does, but like I see them as like a thing that use as tools or like a things that you apply to each other. Yeah, but you don't really have to have a friend. I have friends that they want to understand everything, but like and they always get surprised that I don't understand everything. I just understand what I need to understand. So you are fear of people not liking your code when you started putting it out there? That's a good question. I don't think I had that fear. I just put it out there. It's not about, well, the only fear that you have is that people are gonna like maybe be like, oh, this is not the right way of doing something, or this is broken or something, but then they're gonna like, yeah, if they're doing that, they're actually helping you and they're like telling you the solution for what you're trying to do. So it's, I don't think, yeah, I never had any fear on sharing something. The only fear that I have is like whenever I will share some, or will put something out that is not ready and people start using it, and then I, break their code eventually, because basically like all this stuff, like you had to maintain code and people are doing projects with it, and then they will have to update to the new version, and sometimes decisions that you made there don't make sense anymore and you have to change it, but like you don't want to, but if they update, there are things that are not there anymore, you have renamed, so that things break. That's kind of the more difficult thing, to like provide support to all the people that are using it and make sure that people don't get too mad about it, because maybe you change something and, or like maybe maybe they did a project like 10 years ago with, maybe the project like 2 years ago with it, and they want to update to the latest one, and like a lot of things have changed since then, and somehow you need to make sure that whenever they try to update to the latest version, if they have to, it's not too much of a painful process. That is the only fear. But like I don't think anyone should have any fear sharing the code, basically. I guess it's like having fear of sharing your art or your music. You just do it, and then as long as you have to do it for yourself, and if someone else likes it, then even better. Yeah. How did you like it in Black Mountain? Yeah, I hope. I know this is a very kind of alien diving into. This is something that they don't teach at universities. There's no classes for these kind of things. You had to like somehow. I found myself learning all these things, and I found myself doing what is called a maintainer. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things that could be applied to many other things, and hopefully it inspires other people to apply things. I didn't get to like merge any pull requests on GitHub, but like I think it kind of shows a little bit how the process works. Like I will have to show all the tools that I use and stuff, but like, yeah, glad you guys like it. And If you have any questions or anything after, yeah, you'll find me. Let's see. For any questions. No, wait. Oh, I'll find it. Yeah, for any questions, just tweet at me and I'll do my best. Thank you guys. Have a good Friday. Cheers.